Clara sat in front of the cold computer monitor in the hospital's billing department. The screen was densely packed with this month's credit card statement. The finger she used to scroll the mouse trembled slightly. The upcoming payment was $2,130. For Clara, an ordinary office worker, this was by no means a small amount of money. On the surface, this was the family expenses card, issued under her husband Mark's name. But the reality was absurd. The bank account from which the card payments were automatically withdrawn wasn't her husband's. It was the checking account where her own hard-earned salary was deposited. Her husband got to take all the credit for providing, while the actual money was being drained from Clara's pocket. Clara began to scrutinize the statement, line by line. Her mother-in-law Helen's nutritional supplements and physical therapy bills, the tuition for her sister-in-law Jessica's daughter's private tutoring, and even the groceries for the big family dinner last week. It was all paid for with Clara's money. Clara's eyes stopped at the tutoring fee. It was clear Jessica had swiped the card again without so much as a discussion. It was already the third time this month. As she let out an exasperated sigh, her phone buzzed loudly. The screen clearly displayed 3 words: mother-in-law. "Hello, Helen." As soon as Clara answered, Helen's sharp, grating voice pierced her ear. "Clara, you make sure you clear your schedule for this weekend. Don't make any plans. Some relatives, about 5 or 6 families, have decided to come visit all at once, so you need to be fully prepared." "Oh, Helen, you mean nearly 20 people are coming on such short notice? Is there a special occasion?" "What special occasion? It's just a get-together to see everyone's faces." "Oh, and you handle the food. You know what to do. Your parents will be there too, so you'd better make a good impression for your mother-in-law, shouldn't you?" Helen hung up without even waiting for a reply. The mention of her own parents made Clara's heart sink. Helen was a two-faced woman who always pretended to treat Clara with the utmost respect in front of her family, only to burden her with all sorts of grueling tasks behind their backs. "She wants me to cook for 20 people all by myself?" On her way home from work, Clara dragged her heavy body to the grocery store. Her cart was piled high with beef, pork, and mountains of various vegetables and fruits. As she stood at the checkout line, about to pull out her card, she heard a familiar, irritating voice from behind. Well, Clara, what are you doing here?" It was her sister-in-law, Jessica. Jessica's own cart was filled with high-end imported cosmetics and bags from brand-name stores. Clara forced a bitter smile and replied, "Helen said we have guests coming this weekend, so I'm doing the shopping." "Are you out shopping, Jess?" "Yes, just checking out a new handbag that just came out." "Oh, right." "Clara, let me see that family expense card. I have a few things I rang up over there, but I think I left my wallet in the car." "Jess, you've already charged over $600 to this card this month. Please pay for your personal items with your own card." At Clara's firm tone, Jessica pouted and laughed in disbelief. "Oh, come on, Clara. Why are you being like this? It's family. Besides, this is my brother's card, isn't it? It's the money my brother earns. So what's the big deal if his sister uses a little of it? Aren't you being a little too sensitive? Acting like it's your own money being spent." Jessica practically snatched the card from Clara's hand and hurried to the checkout counter. Clara couldn't tell if she was genuinely clueless that the card was linked to her salary account, or if she knew and was just pretending not to. Watching her shameless retreat, Clara clenched her fists tightly. When the weekend arrived, the situation became even more chaotic. Clara had been up since 5 a.m., her back aching as she prepared pan-fried dishes and braised short ribs. Her husband, Mark, shuffled into the kitchen, his eyes still heavy with sleep. "Honey, you're working so hard. Is there anything I can help with? Then please do these dishes. They keep piling up, and I can't keep up." "Oh, shoot, I just remembered. I have to go out right now. Mom asked me to go pick up our uncle. I promise I'll help you when I get back. Sorry." Her husband made a half-hearted apology and dashed out of the house. In the end, the vast kitchen was filled only with the smell of cooking oil and Clara's sighs. In the afternoon, the guests began to arrive, and the living room blossomed with laughter. Helen raised her voice in front of the relatives. "Our daughter-in-law is so quick with her hands. I didn't even have to ask. And she prepared this incredible feast. It just goes to show you have to bring the right person into the family. Don't you agree, Eleanor?" Her father just chuckled awkwardly, glancing at his daughter's complexion. From a corner in the kitchen, Clara wiped sweat from her brow, listening to the hypocritical conversation. Her sister-in-law, Jessica, chimed in while picking at the food. Clara, the casserole is a little bland. You should pay more attention next time. And you explained that charge from the other day to my brother, right? Things like that are normal for family, you know. Late at night, after all the guests had gone, the living room looked like a war zone. Her husband, Mark, was sprawled out on the sofa, snoring loudly, and her mother-in-law had slipped away into her room. Clara plunged her hands into cold water and began tackling the mountain of dishes. Looking at her swollen, pruned fingers, the past 20 years flashed before her eyes. Was I a maid in this house? Or a walking ATM? Just then, her mother called. In a weak voice, her mom said, "Clara, honey, they've scheduled my surgery for tomorrow. The bill is going to be pretty high. If you're worried about your in-laws, I'll try to figure something out." "I'm sorry, sweetie." After hanging up, the tears Clara had been holding back finally burst forth. The reality of her situation, pouring tens of thousands of dollars into her in-laws' lives every year, while her own sick mother had to worry about hospital bills, was utterly devastating. Clara immediately turned on her computer and opened an Excel file. She began to meticulously document every penny she had spent on her in-laws over the past 20 years. The cost for their family memorial dinners, Jessica's luxury goods, the allowance for her in-laws that was paid out under her husband's name. The total sum was staggering, approaching $450,000. Clara stared blankly at the number on the screen and bit her lip. There's no such thing as of course in this world. The money you all spent so casually. I'm going to get every last cent back. The sound of her husband snoring from the living room seemed particularly repulsive that night. Clara's eyes, reflected in the monitor, shone with a cold, steely resolve she had never felt before. Clara sat on a bench in the hospital corridor, staring blankly at the ceiling. The words the doctor had just told her echoed in her mind. "Ma'am, the patient's condition is worse than we thought. The tumor is quite large, so we need to schedule the surgery for next Thursday, including the hospital stay, surgery, and post-operative care. You should budget for around $10,000. $10,000. To others, it might not be much, but for Clara, who hadn't been able to build up any real savings after 20 years of supporting her in-laws, it was a colossal sum. But more than the money, what tore at Clara's heart was the image of her mother sitting alone in a hospital room, facing surgery all by herself. When Clara opened the hospital room door, her mother, Eleanor, who had been gazing out the window, quickly turned her head. As if sensing her daughter's dark expression, she forced a bright tone. "Clara, what did the doctor say?" "He said I'll get better right after the surgery, didn't he? You shouldn't be neglecting your in-laws because of me. I'm so worried Helen will start to dislike you because of her temper." "Mom, are you really more worried about my in-laws than your own health right now? Your surgery is scheduled for next Thursday, so don't think about anything else and just focus on getting better. I'll take the day off and stay with you." Clara squeezed her mother's thin hand, but that resolve was shattered the moment she returned home. Her husband, lying on the sofa eating chips and watching TV, scowled as soon as he heard the news. "What? Your mom's surgery is next Thursday? Clara, are you out of your mind? That's the day we start preparing for my great-aunt's 70th birthday party. Did you forget Mom specifically told you to handle everything, from the shopping to the cooking?" "Mark, it's my mother's surgery. A surgery to remove a tumor. No matter how important a birthday party is, it can't be more important than someone's life. How can you, as her son-in-law, say something like that?" As Clara raised her voice for the first time, Mark threw the remote control on the floor and yelled back. "Who do you think you're yelling at? The doctors are the ones who do the surgery, not you. Just hire a caregiver for the hospital room. But if you don't show up for our family event, my mom will have to do everything herself. Can you handle the aftermath of that? You know what she's like." Just then, as if she had been listening in, a thunderous call came from his mother. "Clara, what did you just say to Mark? You're going to ditch a major family event for your mother's surgery? Did you already forget you promised to fulfill your duties when you married into this family?" "Helen, it's my mother. How can I be frying food and grilling meat for your family while my own mother is going into surgery? Please, just this once, try to understand." "Understand? Don't be ridiculous. Listen to me carefully. The 70th birthday party is a huge affair with dozens of relatives attending. It's about our family's reputation. A hospital can function without a family member present. The machines do all the work. I will not tolerate a daughter-in-law who abandons her duties to her husband's family to tend to her own. You need to learn about priorities. I never took you for someone so selfish." Helen's voice was as sharp as a knife. Clara was so stunned she couldn't speak. The next day at work, her colleagues asked if she was okay, but Clara could only manage a bitter smile. For the past 20 years, her own family's events had always taken a backseat to even the most trivial errands for her in-laws. To make matters worse, her sister-in-law, Jessica, sent a text that added insult to injury. Clara, make sure you're not late on Thursday. I have a golf outing with my friends, so I can't make it. Mom said she's counting on you, so please make sure the food is good. The caregiver will probably do a better job of looking after your mom anyway. You show filial piety with money, not with your time. Clara threw her phone onto the desk. Her breath grew short as rage boiled within her. But reality was harsh. In the end, Clara had to cancel the emergency savings account she had painstakingly built up over 20 years. It was $8,000 money that had been her only breathing room, pieced together from small overtime bonuses and awards she'd hidden from her in-laws. With a trembling hand, Clara called her mother. Mom, I'm going to deposit $8,000 for the surgery. Don't worry. Clara, where did you get all this money? Are your in-laws giving you a hard time? You're still coming on the day of the surgery, right? Instead of answering, Clara bit her lip hard. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Mom, I'm so sorry. I really am. I don't think I can make it that day because of an event at my in-laws' house. I've arranged for a very good caregiver. No, it's all right, sweetie. Mom is really okay. Just listen to your in-laws and don't get into any trouble. That's all that matters. Don't worry about me. After hanging up, Clara ran to a bathroom stall and sobbed silently. She felt so pathetic, remembering how she had promised to live happily while looking at the handmade quilts her mother had given her 20 years ago. When she got home after work, Mark, completely oblivious to the fact that she had just emptied her savings, asked her triumphantly, So, you decided to come on Thursday, right? I'll let Mom know. You made the right choice. My wife is the best. Clara didn't even look at her husband's face. She went into their bedroom and locked the door. In the dark room, she turned on her computer. A new line was added to the Excel file titled Accounting. Forced to work on in-laws' 70th birthday party on the day of my own mother's surgery. Pay for the surgery with my own $8,000 savings. Clara stared at her cold eyes reflected in the white light of the monitor and muttered to herself, The 20 years you stole from me, and my mother's tears, from now on, they will accrue interest. A very high rate of interest. Clara's revenge, now meticulously planned, was ready to be set in motion. In a corner of the hospital lobby, Clara launched her mobile banking app with trembling hands. The tips of her fingers were cold as she entered her password. As she hit the confirm button, $8,000 was instantly transferred to her mother Eleanor's account. The moment the words transfer complete appeared on the screen, Clara let out a long, held breath. Mom, I just sent the $8,000. Use it for the pre-op tests and to get what you need for your hospital stay. Let me know right away if you need more. Her mother's voice over the phone was soaked with apology. Clara, where did you suddenly get this much money? Are you sure your in-laws aren't giving you a hard time? I can't sleep just thinking about how Helen might treat you. Mom, are you really more worried about my in-laws than your own health right now? It's my salary, and I'll spend it how I want. Who's going to say anything? Just focus on taking care of yourself. Clara hung up and hurried to the hospital's records office. Avoiding the eyes of her colleagues, she began to personally gather all the paperwork related to her mother's surgery. From the hospital admission, consent form to the surgical consent, and the list of non-covered items, Clara's gaze was sharper than ever as she meticulously reviewed each document. Excuse me, if you add up all these non-covered items, what would be the total estimated cost for the surgery and hospital stay? You should probably be prepared for around $8,000 to $9,000. Depending on medication or additional tests, it could exceed $10,000. Clara nodded, jotting down the numbers in a notepad. Although she had already secured $8,000 by closing her savings account, every penny was precious considering future expenses. However, the scene that greeted her upon returning home was enough to turn her stomach. Her husband, Mark, was lounging on the sofa, scratching his belly, completely absorbed in a TV drama. Honey, here's the estimate for Mom's surgery. Take a look. It looks like it's going to be more than we thought. As Clara handed him the papers, Mark waved them away in annoyance. Oh, come on, this is the most important scene. Why do you keep interrupting me? You'll handle the surgery costs, right? What's the point of showing them to me? I'm not a doctor. You're a son-in-law. Isn't it natural for us to discuss how much it's going to cost and how we can help? Discuss what? You work in the hospital's billing department. See if you can get a discount or something. Besides, we have so many expenses coming up for my great-aunt's party. Don't come whining to me about your mother's surgery bills. I'm tired. Just leave me alone. Mark didn't even spare her a glance, his eyes glued back to the TV. Clara clutched the papers tightly and went to her room. Sitting at her desk, her eyes, a mixture of anger and sorrow, turned to the computer. She opened the accounting Excel file again. This time, she began to comb through last month's credit card statement. What is this? Clara's eyes widened. There was a charge for $980 from a luxury brand in a high-end department store, made on a weekday afternoon in the middle of last month. Upon checking, she confirmed the purchaser was her sister-in-law, Jessica. She had been using the family expense card, like her own personal wallet, to buy designer bags. But that wasn't all. There was a $350 charge for a golf course under Mark's name, $180 at a fancy Japanese restaurant. And even though they owned an electric car, there were over $600 in gas charges. My salary has been bleeding out to these people. To think I've been living like this for 20 years. Clara created a new sheet in the Excel file, titled Anomalous Expenditures, and began to input the details. Her fingers trembled slightly, but her mind was growing colder by the second. Just then, her mother-in-law burst into the room without warning. Clara, is it true you sent $8,000 to your family? Clara was so startled she tried to hide the screen, but Helen's piercing gaze had already cut through her. Helen, how did you know? I heard everything from Mark. Are you crazy? How could a married daughter just send a huge sum of money to her family like that? Don't you realize all that money comes from what my son earns? Helen, this is my salary. It's for my mother's surgery. It's my duty as a daughter. Duty? What duty? Your salary is part of this household's finances. How dare you distinguish between your money and my money? Once you're married, it's all family money. Tell your other siblings to pay for your mother's surgery. Are you trying to bankrupt this family? Helen screamed, gesticulating wildly before slamming the door and leaving. Clara stood frozen in place. The reality of being treated like a criminal for spending her own money was crushing. The past 20 years, during which her own family's needs were always treated as an afterthought to her in-laws' events, flashed before her eyes like a sped-up film. With a determined expression, Clara grabbed the mouse again. She logged into her bank's app and submitted a request to change her direct deposit account to a personal one that her in-laws knew nothing about. Next, she canceled the automatic payment setup for the family expense card. From now on, you won't spend a single penny of my money as you please. The money I earned will be used for my mother and for my own life. That night, her younger brother called. Sis, Mom's surgery is tomorrow. Are you really not coming? Mom looks so down because you're not here. Is that family event more important than Mom's surgery? I'm really disappointed in you. Clara couldn't say a word to her brother's sharp rebuke. The sorrow of being the eldest daughter who had spent 20 years constantly apologizing for not being there for her own family stabbed at her heart. After hanging up, Clara wiped away her tears as she looked at the dark sky outside the window. I'm sorry, Mom. Just hang in there a little longer. I'm going to completely destroy this hellish family, and then I'll be there. In Clara's notebook, a new word was now clearly written: counterattack. The calm before the storm enveloped the family. After the family event, the relatives all flocked to a large, pre-booked restaurant. More than 25 people filled the long tables. Clara sat in a corner, silently sipping lukewarm water. She had been up since 4 a.m., preparing all the food by herself, and every joint in her body was screaming in protest. My, how times have changed. These days, daughters-in-law are so devoted to their own parents. A relative sitting at the next table remarked with a smile. The atmosphere in the restaurant was, on the surface, cheerful, but upon hearing this, her mother-in-law slammed her chopsticks down, pouring cold water on the mood. What's wrong with taking care of one's own family? But it's a different story if you're doing it with someone else's money, isn't it? In an instant, the noise in the restaurant vanished. Clara, her mind numb, lifted her head to look at her mother-in-law. As if on cue, Helen raised her voice, dripping with sarcasm. You have no idea how much money our daughter-in-law has been pouring into her family lately. She sends $2,000–3,000 at a time without a second thought. And where do you think all that money comes from? Helen, isn't it because Clara earns her own money? A relative asked cautiously. Helen just scoffed, raising her voice even louder. The money she earns? This family runs on my son's salary. What separate money does a daughter-in-law have? Once you get married, a woman's salary becomes household money, family money. Is she in her right mind, forgetting her duties and embezzling her husband's family's money to play the dutiful daughter to her own parents? Clara's ears were ringing, and her heart began to pound as if it would explode. Her mother-in-law didn't stop. On the contrary, she looked around as if she were performing for an audience. Young people these days are so scary. They take everything their in-laws do for them for granted, while secretly stashing away their own money to take care of their side of the family. It's just so cunning. Beside her, her sister-in-law, Jessica, added fuel to the fire, smiling brightly as she agreed. Mom's right. Clara looked upset earlier, too. It's probably because she's being forced to do things for our family, while all she can think about is sending money to hers. She was so stingy about paying for my son's tutoring, but she had no problem dropping thousands on her own mom's surgery. Clara stared directly at Jessica, but Jessica avoided her gaze, smirking as she put a piece of braised rib in her mouth. Her husband, Mark, witnessed this entire exchange, but just kept his head down, shoveling food into his mouth. Not a single word of defense or intervention. Clara, is that true? Did you really skimp on your in-laws' expenses to send money to your family? A curious relative asked. Clara bit her lip hard and replied, That's not true. The money I sent was my own, earned with my own two hands over 20 years, without ever borrowing from anyone. Your money? How can it be your money when your salary goes into this household's budget? Are you trying to argue with me in front of all our relatives? Helen shrieked, and every eye in the restaurant turned to Clara. Helen's younger sister, Jean, suddenly burst out laughing. Oh my, these modern daughters-in-law are something else. Using the money their husband provides to play the good daughter to their own family. We couldn't have even imagined such a thing in our day. Mark, what kind of job are you doing reining in your wife? Jean's voice echoed through the entire restaurant, and even guests at other tables began to whisper. Look at that daughter-in-law's face. How shameless. Sending her in-laws money to her own family. She's no better than a thief. Clara felt like she couldn't breathe. 20 years of sacrifice for a family she had believed in were being tossed aside like trash by the petty games of these hypocritical people. Clara pulled a stack of papers from her bag, the one she had prepared in advance, and slammed them onto the center of the table. It was the printed Excel file. Mother-in-law, you said the money I earned is family money, right? Then take a look at this. This is a record of what I've spent on this family's living expenses and events for the past 20 years. The grand total is $453,400. A murmur went through the relatives at the sight of the documents. Helen, flustered, snatched the papers and scanned them. Every item was meticulously recorded with a date, amount, and payment detail. What is all this? Are these just numbers you made up? It's my salary account and credit card statements. Your hospital bills, Jessica's college tuition, Mark's golf expenses, it's all in here. Take a look for yourself and see who has been living lavishly off whose money. Clara's voice was beyond cold. It was chilling. Mark, panicking, grabbed Clara's arm. Honey, have you lost your mind? What is this embarrassing scene in front of all the elders? Put this away, and let's talk at home. Let go of me. You have no right to speak. You had no problem playing golf and drinking with my money. Did your food taste good while I was being subjected to this humiliation by your mother? Clara shook off her husband's hand. Mark's face turned red and pale as he glanced nervously at the relatives. Are you talking back to your mother-in-law? You're really trying to end things today, aren't you? Helen pointed a trembling finger at her. Clara slowly stood up and packed her bag. Yes, I came here to end things. This is the result of treating me not as a daughter-in-law for 20 years, but as a free-of-charge servant. You called me in to cook on the very day my own mother was having surgery, and now you trample on my reputation in front of our relatives. That's a daughter-in-law's duty. When you marry into a family, you become one of us. Duty? There is no such thing as duty in a place where a person isn't treated like a human being. Mother-in-law. Today you have crossed a line you can never uncross. The days of you all getting fat on the living expenses I provided are over as of today. Clara walked out of the restaurant, leaving behind the shocked relatives and her screaming mother-in-law. She could hear Mark yelling and chasing after her, but she didn't look back once. Once she was in her car, clutching the steering wheel, her whole body began to tremble. A wave of both rage and liberation washed over her. Watching the restaurant building shrink in her rearview mirror, Clara bit her lip. As soon as she got home, Clara locked her bedroom door and turned on her computer. She created a new file named Separation Plan. 1. Immediately cancel and report family expense card as lost. 2. Change salary account, password, and request new security card. 3. Cancel all utilities and automatic payments for the in-laws' house. 4. Review legal options for a restitution claim for the funds extorted over 20 years. Clara saved the file and muttered coldly, "An apology? Remorse? I don't expect such things from you. From now on, my only job is to cut off your lifelines." One by one. On her desk, Clara's phone was vibrating manically with calls from her husband, mother-in-law, and sister-in-law. But Clara tossed it deep into a drawer. The real war had just begun. The next morning, on the subway to work, Clara calmly opened her banking app. Without hesitation, she pressed the Deactivate Card button. A confirmation message popped up. "Are you sure you want to report this card as lost or stolen?" Without a shred of hesitation, Clara pressed Confirm. Deactivated. Staring at the dry message on the screen, Clara felt a void in her chest being filled. She then proceeded to cancel all the automatic payments linked to the card, her in-laws' utilities, phone bills, everything. All financial channels connected to them were now completely severed. "I won't offer any explanation. The moment I start explaining, it will just become another form of begging." Clara put her phone deep into her bag and focused on her work at the hospital billing department. Just after lunchtime, her phone began to vibrate wildly. It was her husband, Mark. Clara glanced at the screen and quietly flipped it over. Immediately, a flood of text messages poured in. "Honey, I'm at the supermarket, and the card's not working. It's not over the limit, so what's going on? Pick up the phone. Mom is waiting at the checkout counter." "Clara, are you doing this on purpose? You want to see Mom get humiliated, don't you?" Clara read the messages, but didn't type a single word in response. Silence would be her most powerful weapon. By 3 p.m., frantic calls from her mother-in-law, Helen, began, soon joined by her sister-in-law, Jessica. Clara treated all the noise as background music and finished her preparations to leave work. After work, the first place Clara went was not her in-laws' house, but her mother's hospital room. Through the glass, she saw her mother, Eleanor, sitting up in bed, quietly reading a book. Looking at that peaceful sight, Clara made a promise. "Mom, from now on, I will protect you. I will be on your side so that you are never pushed aside for anyone again." When Clara opened the door, Eleanor greeted her with a bright smile. Hearing that her surgery had gone well and she could be discharged in a few days, Clara finally breathed a sigh of relief. The frantic, screaming messages from her in-laws that had been churning her stomach finally began to settle. But the moment she arrived home, reality turned back into hell. Her husband, Mark, was standing in front of the door, fuming. "Are you out of your mind? What the hell did you do? Why did you block the card?" As Mark yelled, Clara slowly took off her shoes and answered in an ice-cold tone, "It's my card, with money coming out of an account in my name. Is there a problem with me deactivating it?" "Your card? How is that your card? It's our family's expense card. Because of you, Mom had to leave all her groceries at the checkout counter and walk out of the supermarket empty-handed. Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was? Then she should have paid with cash. I suppose she didn't have a single $20 bill in her wallet? Cash? What cash? Where would Mom get cash? She relied on me to make sure the card always worked." "How can you say that to her?" Clara sat on the living room sofa and looked her husband straight in the eye. Mark flinched at her chilling gaze. "Did you really not know? For 20 years, did you really never once think about the fact that all the payments for that card were coming out of my salary account?" "Well, we're family. There's no my money, your money. I use my earnings to buy the house and car. So isn't it only natural that we use your money for living expenses?" "There is no natural. For 20 years, you've used over $450,000 of my hard-earned money. Has your family ever once said thank you to me? Instead, you acted like it was your right. You trembled over the $8,000 for my own mother's surgery and treated me like a thief." Mark, at a loss for words, kicked a notebook lying on the floor. "So, this is your revenge? Unblock the card right now. Mom's blood pressure is through the roof, and she's lying in bed. No. From now on, you will handle the family's living expenses. I will calculate the exact amount for utilities and groceries each month and give you the bill. You will pay for it from your salary. Not one more cent of my money will go towards your family's expenses." The next day, her sister-in-law, Jessica, stormed into the house. Her face was flushed as she screamed, "Clara, are you kidding me? My son's tutoring payment is due, and the card was declined. Do you know how embarrassed I was when the director called me? Jessica, you should be paying for your son's tutoring fees. Why are you brandishing my card as if it's your right? What are you talking about? You've always paid for it. My brother told me you don't have anything else to spend money on, so it was fine." Clara threw a stack of papers in front of Jessica. On it, all the charges Jessica had made on the family expense card for the past 3 years were highlighted. Your personal spending alone amounts to $12,000 over the last 3 years. Designer bags from the department store. Your daughter's ballet lessons. You even use my card for your own in-laws' family dinner groceries. Is this normal? Jessica's eyes darted around, flustered by the numbers on the paper. But she quickly retorted shamelessly, "We're family. We can use it sometimes. You're a scary person, Clara, keeping track of all this. You, who gnaw away at someone's life in the name of family, are much scarier. Get out, now, and think about how you're going to repay the $12,000 you've spent. If you don't, I will formally sue you." Jessica shrieked and ran out of the house. The next to arrive was the final boss, her mother-in-law. Helen stormed into the living room, kicked the sofa, and screamed with crazed eyes, "Clara, let's end this today. How dare a mere daughter-in-law block her mother-in-law's card? You're determined to turn this family upside down, aren't you?" Correction, Helen, it wasn't your card. It was a card that ran on your daughter-in-law's money. You've had 20 years of free service. It's time to switch to a paid plan. What? Paid plan? Are you joking with me? Do you know how much trouble I went through to bring you into this family? How dare you talk back to me? Helen raised her hand to slap Clara's face. But Clara didn't flinch, staring back with defiant eyes. "Go ahead and hit me. The moment you do, all financial support for this family ends forever. And I will go straight to the police. If you want to see your son's life ruined, be my guest." Helen's hand trembled in midair. She felt a fear she had never known before in Clara's cold gaze. Hissing curses, Helen fled the house as if escaping. Left alone in the living room after the storm, Clara sat quietly in a chair. The tension left her body, replaced by a tremor, but her heart felt stronger than ever. Just then, her younger brother called. "Sis, Mom is being discharged tomorrow. We need to settle the hospital and caregiver bills. Can you take a look?" "Yes, don't worry. I just transferred $6,000. I'll take care of the rest when I go to pick her up." Clara looked down at the transfer confirmation on her banking app. The money that had once been used for her in-laws' luxuries and vanity was finally flowing to where it was truly needed. "From now on, my life and my mother come first. The 20 years you destroyed, I will make you pay it back in full." Clara's voice, though quiet, resonated powerfully in the living room. It was the starting gun, signaling that the real war had just begun. It had only been a day since she canceled the family expense card, but Clara's phone was ringing so violently it seemed it would scream. The vibrations, which started at dawn, showed no signs of stopping. At 8 a.m. sharp, the first shot was fired by none other than her mother-in-law. "Clara, when are you unblocking the card? I need to go to the store, and it won't work. Unblock it now." Clara didn't answer, just stared at the screen. Immediately, a text bomb from her sister-in-law, Jessica, followed. "Clara, are you kidding me? If my son's tuition isn't paid today, he'll be expelled. Do you want to ruin your nephew's education? Unblock the card now." By noon, she had received over 30 calls. Her mother-in-law and sister-in-law were taking turns, draining her battery at an alarming rate. In the hospital break room, a colleague asked with concern, "Clara, you should probably answer your phone. It might be something urgent. It's been ringing non-stop." "It's nothing. Just spam calls." Clara shoved her phone deep into her bag. Just feeling the vibrations in her pocket made her heart pound and her stomach churn. At 2 p.m., her husband called from his office number. Feeling she could no longer avoid it, Clara answered. "Honey, are you in your right mind? Mom has been calling me non-stop. She's going crazy. I can't get any work done." "That's not something you should be saying to me. Perhaps you should say it to your mother, who's nagging her own son for money. Are you really going to be like this? Can't you see I'm being humiliated at work? The guy at the next desk can hear everything, and he's smirking at me. What does this do to my reputation?" "Reputation? Mark, for 20 years, I was treated like a servant in your house and lived without any dignity. Is your embarrassment more important than the $450,000 of my hard-earned money? Has this woman gone completely mad? Unblock the card now, or I swear I won't stand for it." Instead of replying, Clara hung up. On her way home, she checked her phone to find 8-9 missed calls and nearly 100 text messages. They were all demands: send money, unblock the card. Why isn't the payment going through, but not a single warm word asking about her or how she was feeling? So, our 20 years together hinged on this single piece of plastic. Clara let out a hollow laugh and headed home. Before she even reached the front door, her mother-in-law was waiting for her with piercing eyes. "Clara, what is your game? Are you trying to torment us to death?" As soon as Clara entered the house, Helen followed her into the living room and began pointing a finger at her. "What game?" "I'm trying to protect my own money because it's precious to me." "Is that such a crime?" "It is a crime. It's a daughter-in-law's natural duty to support her husband's family. How dare you make a fuss over a little money? Because of you, our lives have come to a complete halt. The utility and gas bills are all overdue." Clara pulled a document from her bag and held it out to her mother-in-law. "Helen, I went through all the automatic payment records, and what I found was truly astonishing. Your cell phone bill, the life insurance policy in your name, even the maintenance fees for Jessica's condo. Why are all of these being paid from my salary account? When did I ever agree to this?" Helen's face turned pale in an instant. These were all things she had secretly had Mark set up in Clara's name, thinking she would never find out. That's because we're family. We pay for things together. You're our daughter-in-law, so naturally, I put them in your name. Because we're family. You use my personal information without my consent to set up automatic payments? That's a clear case of identity theft. Helen, you were spending an average of $1,800 a month without my permission." Right then and there, Clara opened her banking app and began canceling the 12 automatic payment items one by one. Helen screamed and lunged to snatch the phone. But Clara coldly pushed her away. "Don't touch me. This is my phone and my money. From now on, you, Jessica, and Mark can pay for all these bills yourselves. As of today, I will not contribute a single dollar to this household. So if our gas gets shut off and our phones are disconnected, you're going to take responsibility for that? Are you even human? The one who didn't treat me like a human was you. When you humiliated me in front of all our relatives, calling me a thief, you became less than a stranger to me. Please leave now. I'm tired." Helen began to wail, pounding the living room floor. But Clara didn't bat an eye, simply went into the master bedroom and locked the door. A moment later, her husband burst in, pounding on the door as if to break it down. "Clara, what did you do to my mom? She's crying, her eyes out, and about to collapse. Do you want a divorce that badly?" Clara slowly opened the door and stared directly at her husband. "A divorce? That sounds like an excellent idea. After being a cash cow for your family and handing over $450,000, don't you think I've earned my freedom?" Mark, stunned by the unexpected word divorce, stood there with his mouth agape. Clara continued calmly. "From now on, you and your family can handle your own affairs. I'm going to live my own life. I'm going to find the Clara I lost over the last 20 years. Clara closed and locked the door again. The sounds of cursing and crying from outside were no longer painful. Instead, it was a fiercely sweet freedom she was feeling for the first time in 20 years. A week after she deactivated the card, an ominous notice appeared in the in-laws group chat. It was a post from her mother-in-law. "Family gathering this Saturday at 2 p.m. Full attendance required. The senior relatives and all the aunts are coming." As soon as the message was posted, her sister-in-law, Jessica, replied as if she had been waiting. "Clara, you know the menu: braised short ribs and noodle casserole are the basics, right? Please add a few more fried items this time. My aunt was praising how delicious your food was last time." Clara looked down at the group chat with cold eyes. Without hesitation, she moved her fingers and left a short, powerful reply. "I will not be attending this gathering. I hope you all have a wonderful time." A sudden silence fell over the chat room. Less than 10 seconds later, her phone began to ring loudly with a call from her mother-in-law. Clara casually pressed the decline button and put her phone deep in her bag. A flood of venomous text messages followed. "What do you mean you're not attending? If you don't come, who will cook the food and greet the guests? Answer your phone now." Clara didn't even bother to reply and immersed herself in her work. At lunchtime, her husband called, his voice frantic. "Honey, are you out of your mind? Mom is at home, on the verge of collapsing. The Saturday gathering is incredibly important. Why aren't you coming?" "I understand it's important, but my schedule has something more important on it. Taking my mother to the hospital. You can take your mother next week. Over 20 relatives are coming. If you, the daughter-in-law, aren't there, who's going to prepare all that food? Are you really going to do this? Mark, you and Jessica are there, aren't you? Do you not have hands? Do you not have feet? It's your family's party, so you can do the shopping and cooking yourselves. I am no longer your slave. Clara hung up the phone, leaving Mark shouting behind. On Friday evening, her sister-in-law Jessica came to the house and knocked on the door. Clara, are you really not going to prepare the food for tomorrow? You're not even going to do the shopping? That's right. I'm not. You can go to the market yourself, buy the meat, and chop the vegetables. But, Clara, what do I know about cooking? You've always taken care of it before. Before, I was foolishly doing you a favor. Now, I've come to my senses, and I'm reclaiming my life. You're in your mid-30s, Jessica. It's about time you learned how to cook for your own family. Jessica stomped her feet, her face turning red. But Clara didn't bat an eye and pushed her out the door. On Saturday, for the first time in 20 years, Clara was not at a family event for her in-laws, but by her own mother's side. The time spent making dumplings and chatting with her mother after her recovery was a piece that nothing could replace. But at that same moment, her in-laws' house was in absolute chaos. They had managed to buy groceries, but Jessica didn't even know how to properly prepare the short ribs and was running around in a panic. Mom, how do you make the marinade for the ribs? Clara used to do it so easily. Why doesn't mine taste right at all? How should I know? Clara always just brought it over, ready to serve. Have you ever seen me cook? Ugh, you useless girl. Just look it up online. Helen yelled in frustration. But the situation didn't improve. In the end, the dishes Jessica managed to make were either burnt or so poorly seasoned they were inedible. At 2 p.m., the relatives began to arrive. Oh, Helen, your daughter-in-law isn't here today. Is she sick? Sick? She's so obsessed with her own family these days she couldn't care less about ours. I'm suffering like this because I got one bad daughter-in-law. Helen complained about Clara in front of the relatives. But as soon as the meal began, the atmosphere turned icy. My goodness, why are these fritters so burnt? And why are the ribs so tough and salty? Helen, this doesn't taste like the food Clara usually makes. Did Jessica make this? No wonder. I can't eat it. At the relatives' blunt complaints, Jessica lowered her head in shame, and Helen didn't know what to do. Just then, her sister, Jean, slammed down her chopsticks and said, Sister, be honest. Everyone here knows Clara did all this grueling work by herself for 20 years. Look at this mess now that she's not here. And I heard she contributed over $450,000 to this family. What? $450,000? Jean, what are you talking about? Helen shouted in panic, but the other relatives began to murmur among themselves. That's right. I heard it too. That Clara showed everyone the organized statements. Everything from living expenses to her nephew's tutoring was paid with Clara's money. So, how could you call her a thief in front of everyone? No, that's not it. A daughter-in-law's earnings are naturally the family's money. Sister, the world has changed. To a daughter-in-law who supported your family with her own money and her own body, you couldn't even say thank you, and instead you humiliated her. Of course, she lost all affection for you and stopped coming. Looking at this pathetic excuse for a meal today, I can clearly see how much Clara must have suffered all these years. The relatives put down their chopsticks. One by one, they got up to leave, shaking their heads. I'm leaving. The food is terrible, and the atmosphere is unbearable. Sister, you need to apologize to your daughter-in-law first. If Clara ends up divorcing Mark, who's going to take care of this household? After the relatives left like a receding tide, only Helen, Mark, and Jessica remained in the wrecked living room. Unable to contain her anger, Helen screamed, This is all that which Clara's fault. She orchestrated this whole thing to humiliate me. But Mark couldn't say a word. He was finally beginning to realize just how enormous Clara's absence was, and whose blood and sweat had paid for the peace they had taken for granted. Late that evening, Clara returned home. Mark asked her, with a vacant expression from the doorway, All the relatives left angry today. They said our family is a laughingstock because of you. Your family became a laughingstock not because of my absence, but because of your incompetence and shamelessness. This is just the beginning. How can you be tired already? Clara scoffed and went into her room, locking the door. She turned on her computer and opened the file named Relationship Cleanup. In-law event support withdrawal and blockage. Complete. Next step. Financial and legal dissolution of relationship with husband, Mark. Staring at the monitor, Clara whispered, "The place you all took for granted. I will never go back there again. Now, it's your turn to beg at my feet." Clara's eyes shone colder and harder than ever before. Her revenge was now racing towards its climax. The day for her mother Eleanor's follow-up exam to check her post-surgery progress was approaching. It was a crucial day to check for any potential complications or signs of metastasis. After work, Clara drove not to her in-laws' house or her own, but straight to the hospital where her mother was staying. The trunk of her car was filled with bags she had packed days in advance: blankets, pillows, toiletries, and changes of clothes. With a determined look, Clara stood before the front desk of her own hospital department. Her colleagues looked at her with curiosity, but she didn't care. "I'm here to register as a resident guardian." In the relationship to patient field on the form, Clara firmly wrote, "Daughter, Clara." When she entered the hospital room, Eleanor, who was sitting on the bed looking out the window, asked in surprise, "Clara, what's with all these bags?" "I'm planning to stay the night, Mom." "Not just for the night. I'm staying by your side until you're discharged." This time, without worrying about anyone else. Eleanor's eyes instantly welled up with tears. Clara squeezed her mother's wrinkled hand and finally said the words that had been stuck in her heart. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for leaving you alone on the day of your surgery. I'm sorry for making you wait alone in front of that scary operating room. I'm truly sorry." "No, Clara. I understand everything. I know how hard it must have been for you. I know how intimidating your in-laws are." "No, Mom, please don't understand. It wasn't okay. For the past 20 years, I always put you second to my in-laws. I deceived myself into thinking that showing filial piety with money was enough, just to ease my own guilt." Clara buried her face in her mother's lap and burst into tears. Eleanor said nothing, just gently patted her daughter's trembling back. She could feel all the pain her daughter had endured, suffocated by the shackles of being a daughter-in-law. "You're here now, and that's all that matters. That's enough for me. Thank you, my daughter." The two of them held each other and cried for a long time. It felt as if all the resentment and sorrow were being washed away by their tears. But the peace was short-lived. Just after 9 p.m., a call came from her husband, Mark. "Honey, where are you? You should have been home from work hours ago. Why haven't you made dinner?" "I'm at the hospital. I've decided to stay here as my mom's guardian, so I won't be home for a while." "What? A guardian? We hired a caregiver. Are you in your right mind? What about the preparations for the family memorial dinner tomorrow? Pack your things and get over here right now." Clara stepped out into the hallway and looked at the dark scenery outside as she replied calmly, "I'm not coming. From now on, you take care of your parents, and I'll take care of my mother. Let's fend for ourselves." "Are you really trying to get a divorce over this? Don't make such a big deal out of your mother having surgery. It's not a big deal. It's a choice. It's about finally setting my life's priorities straight. You should respect that. Or don't. It doesn't matter. I'm not coming." As soon as she finished speaking, Clara hung up and removed the battery from her phone. The next morning, her mother-in-law stormed into the hospital corridor. "Clara, pack your things and come out right now. With the daughter-in-law gone, the house is a pigsty. There's no one to even get a glass of water, let alone prepare for the memorial dinner." "Helen, this is a hospital. There are patients here, so please don't cause a scene and leave." "You think I can be quiet? Because you blocked the card. The gas bill is overdue, and our gas is about to be shut off. Unblock the card now and go home and beg for forgiveness on your knees." Clara pushed Helen's arm away and laughed coldly. "The card will never be unblocked, and an apology? The person who should be apologizing is you, not me. For using over $450,000 of my money for 20 years without a single word of thanks and treating me like a servant. You disrespectful little." Helen raised her hand, but at that moment, security guards from the hospital rushed over and restrained her. "Ma'am, if you engage in assault or cause a disturbance here, we will have you forcibly removed." Unable to contain her rage, Helen stomped her feet, spat curses, and disappeared like a fugitive. Watching her retreat, Clara felt a sense of true victory. A week later, it was the day of the most important memorial dinner for her in-laws' family. Her husband, Mark, had called dozens of times, begging and pleading with her to at least come and cook the food. But Clara, sitting with her mother in the hospital room peeling fruit, flatly refused. On the day of the event, her in-laws' house was a disaster. The food prepared by her sister-in-law, Jessica, was so shoddy it was embarrassing to place on the memorial table. As soon as the relatives arrived, complaints erupted. "Helen, why isn't Clara here again today? It's a memorial dinner. How can the daughter-in-law not be present?" As Helen was about to launch into another tirade against Clara, her sister-in-law, Jean, who had had enough, cut her off. "Sister, stop it. Do you think we're fools? We all know how you humiliated Clara at the last gathering. You screamed at a daughter-in-law who supported your family for 20 years with her own money, calling her a thief. That was a misunderstanding. A daughter-in-law's money is the family's money. What are you talking about? This isn't the Dark Ages. I saw the list Clara compiled. It was astounding. She was even paying your cell phone bill. Yet you chased her away without an ounce of gratitude. That's why you're in this mess. Look at this food today. Is this even fit for human consumption?" The relatives clicked their tongues and put down their chopsticks. The dinner ended in the worst atmosphere imaginable. After the relatives left, Mark collapsed onto the sofa in the empty living room, finally realizing the immense presence Clara had held in their lives. Meanwhile, Clara was enjoying a walk with her mother, basking in a peace she hadn't known for 20 years. "Clara, are you really okay now?" "Yes, Mom. By finally taking my own side, I realized something. If I don't protect myself, no one else will. I'm never going back to that hell." Clara smiled brightly at her mother. It was a genuine smile, the smile of the real Clara, which had been lost for 20 years. The nagging calls from her in-laws and the shrieks from her mother-in-law were now just distant noise, like dust in the wind. Clara's perfect independence, and her most satisfying revenge, was simply never going back. Writing this story, the most heartbreaking part for me was Clara's lost 20 years. I wanted to show how an individual's life can be tragically erased when the devotion performed in the name of being a daughter-in-law is taken for granted as a duty. The guilt she felt for having to prioritize her in-laws over her own parents was an emotional debt that cannot be quantified by money alone. Ultimately, the greatest lesson from this story is that kindness without boundaries creates monsters who believe they are entitled to it. The emptiness Clara felt when she confronted 20 years of her life as numbers in an Excel file paradoxically became the most powerful weapon for her counterattack. The era where endurance is considered a virtue is over. True filial piety and duty find their value only when you first respect yourself. The void left in the in-laws' lives is not just Clara's revenge. It is a painful report card proving the magnitude of the sacrifices she had endured. I hope this story serves as a wake-up call to those who live by relying on someone else's assumed sacrifice, and as an encouragement for those who are enduring to find the courage to choose themselves. What do you think of this situation? Please leave your thoughts in the comments. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe and like to show your support. I will continue to share similar stories.